Hello, boxing fans around the world. Thank you for joining me once again here on Talking Fight for another episode of Boxing News Today. And we're going to recap a couple of recent bouts as well as take a look at, quite frankly, whether or not, according to the experts, air quotes, Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua will go head-to-head this year or not. First, let's start off with a bit of a recap. As we all saw, Billam Smith beat Lawrence Okolie and won the WBO title. A weird and wonderful fight for sure. Lopez knocks out Conlan in Belfast. Not good news for Irish fans, I'm sure. But on the English side of the river, you got Lee Wood taking back his WBA title over Mauricio Lara with a dominant win, quite frankly. So let's get to some of the details of those fights. And then good old Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua and see what they're up to. Anyway, this is taking from Sky Sports over to England. Chris Billam Smith stuns Lawrence Okolie to win a wild 3-knockdown world title fight in his hometown. Chris Billam Smith secures a fairy tale win in Bournemouth as he upsets Lawrence Okolie to win the WBO Cruiserweight World title. Billam Smith has Okolie on the canvas 3 times and, with 2-point deductions going against the Londoner, wins a majority decision. English fans must have been wild with this one. 2 points were deducted and 3 knockdowns were given as Chris Billam Smith won a world title fight against Lawrence Okolie. It continues. Lawrence Okolie in his Bournemouth hometown. Sorry, if I was to read that properly without interjecting, it would say Chris Billam Smith won a world title fight against Lawrence Okolie in his Bournemouth hometown. It was a frenetic collision with explosive punching, knockdowns, warnings, and all-round mayhem in front of 15,000 delirious fans at the Vitality Stadium, from which Billam Smith emerged with a majority decision victory and the WBO Cruiserweight World Championship. So congratulations to Billam Smith and his team, and I'm pretty sure Eddie Hearn will have something to say about that, his former protege. Oh, look at that. Next story up. Courtesy of our friends over at boxingnews24.com. Charles Brunn, one of my favorite boxing writers, he says promoter Eddie Hearn took the occasion of the WBO Cruiserweight champion Lawrence Okolie's 12-round majority decision loss last Saturday to Chris Billam Smith to fan the flames, saying that his former fighter has been poorly advised, quote, end quote. Hearn didn't add specifics as to how Okolie, now 19-1, had been poorly advised, but it would seem that he didn't think it was a good idea for him to fight the tough Billam Smith, who's now 18-1, with 13 knockouts, by the way, last Saturday. In other words, if Hearn were still promoting Okolie, that challenge would not have been made. The weak matchmaking that was done while Okolie was with Hearn had resulted in the 6'5" fighter becoming the forgotten man. Says Charles, a guy rarely talked about until last Saturday night when he courageously defended against one of the best fighters in the cruiserweight division, Billam Smith. As we know, Okolie was knocked down 3 times by Billam Smith and penalized twice for holding. Okolie's now 30 years old, recently left Hearn's Matchroom Boxing, signed with Boxer, that's Boxxer, and now fights with Sky Sports. Said Eddie Hearn, he said he's been poorly advised. He believed he could beat Billam Smith on away soil. He wanted the big unification fights. He's had 2 fights that haven't been one of them, and he's got beat. You can't get beat you can get beat anytime, but he's definitely been poorly advised. But that's irrelevant when you're talking about fights. I just wish him all the best. Said Okolie, to get a world title and to have the option to win it back and only be blessed. I think they did a really good job. It's great work. It's a bittersweet feeling. Obviously, I enjoyed winning, being undefeated. It'll be sweeter to get the rematch. Happy for Chris, obviously. It was my expense. But to see someone that I've been so close with go win a world title, I've got to take my hat off to Boxer as well, Ben Shalom, and the whole team who got me here. They put an amazing event today, and I'm happy to be part of that. So congratulations to Billam Smith. All right, so is Michael Conlan still a contender is the question. And what's next for Luis Alberto Lopez, Lee Wood, and Mauricio Lara? This story, courtesy of ESPN. Ben Baby and Nick Parkinson comprise this one. Luis Alberto Lopez showed why he could be the best featherweight in boxing, stopping Michael Conlan in round number 5 to retain his IBF world title in their main event of the top-ranked card in Belfast, Northern Ireland this past Saturday night. Lopez is now 28-2, 16 knockouts, dominated Conlan throughout the fight and landed his right uppercut at will until that very same punch put Conlan on the canvas for good. Afterward, his corner threw in the towel. Conlan's now 18-2, 9 knockouts, is probably done as a title contender. So what should be next for him? Lopez says after the fight, he wants to unify the titles. So what are the best options for him in a division full of talent? In Manchester, England, Lee Wood regained the WBA featherweight world title with a unanimous decision victory over Mauricio Lara in their rematch. Wood was patient and kept Lara at the end of his punches to earn scorecards of 118-109, 118-109, and 116-111. Wood, now 27-3 with 16 KOs, has plenty of options, including a trilogy fight with Lara, but he can beat the other champion. Can he beat the other champions in the division is the question. And how can Lara, 26-3-1, 19 knockouts, recover from the loss? Can he do better in a third fight with Wood? So, guys from ESPN, take a look at these very questions and say Lopez proved that his run as a featherweight champ is legit. In what was supposed to be a tough bout on paper, Lopez used power and an unorthodox style to keep to stop Conlan and keep the IBF belt in the 126-pound division. Now it's time for Lopez to bolster his claim as the number 1 fighter in the division by taking on Robeisy Ramirez. That should be interesting. Good point. Conlan, meanwhile, has a steep hill to climb if he wants to be considered a contender at featherweight, and if he gets another title shot. Aside from Lopez, Ray Vargas, Wood, and Lara have all displayed championship pedigree. That doesn't include Eduardo Ramirez or Brendan Figueroa, the latter someone who gave Stephen Fulton all he can handle in 122-pound tills back in 2021. So it's hard to consider Conlan as a serious contender without significant improvement. But what's next for Lee Wood? Is he good enough to unify the belts? After beating Lara, I remember there was a bit of a weigh-in contention. After beating Lara, Wood made it clear what he wanted next, to fight at City Ground, home of English Premier League team Nottingham Forest. Wood doesn't seem to mind who's in the opposite corner of the outdoor venue. If it's his English rival Josh Warrington, a former champion, or Lopez, the IBF World Featherweight Champion, he'll take them both. Warrington would help swell the gate revenue as the former IBF champ. He's a big ticket seller from Leeds. The fact that Warrington was beaten by Lopez by majority decision in his last fight and also stopped by Lara in 2021 does not matter. Lee Wood versus Josh Warrington has been talked about for a while in the UK and would sell well. Let's move along. What can Lara do after a miserable weekend? Lara went into the fight as ESPN's number 1 featherweight, but he'll now be considering his future at 126 pounds. The British Boxing Board of Control were so concerned at his weigh-in earlier in the week that they insisted he should not drop below 128.5 pounds at Friday's weigh-in, and meant Lara went into the fight already stripped of his WBA belt. And since Wood has other options, a trilogy fight seems unlikely for Lara. If Lara does decide to stay at featherweight, there are potential classic matchups with Lopez, who looks sensational in a 5-round knockout of Conlan, or Vargas. Lopez is the IBF champion, and Vargas is still WBC king after losing his last fight at junior lightweight. But Lara perhaps needs to rebuild before taking another shot at a title. Lara was out of sorts against Wood. Clearly, there was something not right with his preparation to come in nearly 4 pounds over the limit, and this may have impacted the way he underperformed. In another story on our boy from Nottingham, Lee Wood, courtesy of BoxingScene.com, It seems the finish line is well in sight. As we mentioned, Josh Warrington might be up next, aside from a potential trilogy against Mauricio Lara. But this particular writer happens to think he's got Uzbekistan's Otabek Kolmatov up next, 11-0. He's the mandatory from the WBA side of things. But he's seeing himself as bigger than that, shall we say? And in particular, going back to what was mentioned earlier about Nottingham Forest's home turf, he does want to fight there. I suppose he's thinking he's near the end of his career, whatever. But at the end of the day, that's where he wants to fight. By the way, as we had talked about last week on Talk and Fight, win by Michael Conlan in Belfast would have set up a rematch to the 2022 Fight of the Year, which saw Wood rally to score a dramatic 12th round knockout. Indeed, dramatic. And that was in Nottingham as well. So Conlan's bid to claim the IBF title ended in his landing on the wrong end of a highlight reel fifth round knockout by defending titleist Luis Alberto Lopez, which I just mentioned. So Wood is just as eager, by the way, to face Lopez, as long as it's at a bucket list destination. One dream that Wood is eager to see becoming a reality is the headline a show at City Ground. He said, "I've had a fairy tale career. It's time to give me my effing happy ending." Wood demanded after his win, he said, "Give me the City Ground," which brought Eddie Hearn to tears. He said, "Lee Wood, proper old school, throwback fighter, Nottingham legend. We have to. City Ground, have to. Nottingham Forest, have to. We have to make it happen." Yep, that's what it takes to be a matchroom leader. Fight fans have been burned multiple times regarding a showdown between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. From arbitrated cases, contract disputes, abnormal negotiation tactics, plans for an all-around British showdown continue to show no clear path. This is courtesy of sportingnews.com, another great site for boxing news. However, recent posts by Tyson Fury may indicate a fight could be so. Fury, the WBC heavyweight champ, recently posted on social media that talks have renewed between his promoter and Joshua's promoter. That would be Matchroom's Eddie Hearn. The Gypsy King is looking for a fight this summer. The initial time frame of a proposed Joshua return to action as well. And ESPN chimes in and says a fight between Fury and Joshua is currently being discussed to take place in September. A few days ago, I sent a draft contract to Andy Joshua for a fight in September at Wembley. It's a fight that everyone wants to see, including myself. Come on, AJ. Let's give the world what they want to see. This time, I'm not going to make a million vids and keep putting pressure on. The ball is now on your side. That's Tyson Fury tweeting, by the way. Funny guy, but says some odd stuff from time to time, as we all know. In 2020, just to recap, Fury beat Deontay Wilder to become the WBC heavyweight champion. A trilogy bout got proposed, but COVID stopped all that plans. Joshua beat Anthony Ruiz Jr. in a rematch in December 2019 to regain the IBF, WBA, WBO, and Ring heavyweight titles. AJ beat Kubrat Pulev in a fight in December 2020, securing his status as champion. With nobody in their way, Joshua and Fury agreed in principle to fight one another. However, a judge ruled in favor of Wilder for a trilogy bout against Fury. He was entitled to take up his option and was granted it. Fury beat Wilder in a rematch, while Joshua, forced to defend his titles again, lost the belts to Alexander Usyk. Joshua lost the rematch against Usyk, remaining empty at the waist. Fury then faced Dillian White, as we all recall, back in April 2022, beating him and retiring. However, Fury started what many now know as his famous and repetitive social media rants, calling out Usyk and Joshua. However, fans grew tired of the act, as did Usyk, standing still and agreed to all that Fury demanded. That bout for undisputed gold quickly sizzled. Joshua remained quiet. Returning to the ring in December 2022, Fury faced Derek Chisora, beating him for a third time. From then to now, Fury has teased fighting for free and has called out Joshua since he failed in negotiating bouts with Usyk. Rumored fighters to face Fury over the last few weeks include Zhilai Zhang and Australian Dempsey McCain. So, will Tyson Fury fight Anthony Joshua this year? That's the big question I posed earlier, and here's the answer. As things stand, the two have not signed a contract to fight one another. The recent rumors are a September bout between the two, but that all depends if Fury is serious about the fight and coming to terms. Regarding distractions that may get in their way, Usyk may fight Daniel Dubois next, as I reported last week, and Alex Krajcik won a purse bid of $8 million for a proposed August bout in Poland. Wilder is also lurking in the shadows, ready to fight at any moment, and given recent news, Joshua and Fury may start negotiations again. The pressure may also be on Fury as several big bouts like Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko, and Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford fights have all been booked for 2023. And boxing fans now wait for the heavyweight division to step up. Agreed. Whether meetings are productive at this point will be up to Tyson Fury. So there you have it, boxing fans. Appreciate you joining me today. Thank you, Carl, for joining me. Yes, Lee Wood did indeed put on a clinic for once and beat Mauricio Lara in fine British fashion. What's next, though, for him? He can't rematch Conlan, obviously. Anyway, Josh Warrington, I suppose, an all UK tilt. All right, fight fans, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll see you later on at 4 p.m. when I join Mike Orr and Cedric Ben for their show Knuckle Up, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you.